Cool beans. Okay. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Delta. Let's go back. Okay. So I'm working right now on the next submarine briefing lecture. And whenever I do that, I begin reading about the next submarine, obviously. Anytime that's a Russian submarine, I always come to this website. So I want to point you guys in the direction of this website called deepstorm.ru. It's in Russian. I use Google Translate, as you see here at the top, to translate it. So the Delta IV, you can see the line drawings of it here. It's the fourth iteration of the Delta. It's obviously the most recent. They didn't make a Delta V. It's the best. After the Delta, they made the Bory class. So the Bory is the next evolution in ballistic missile design. But this design here is really good. It's the design for the Delta had been refined over and over again, and each time they made it better. The Delta III was where it really got scary good, and the Delta IV took the Delta III and made it even better. So this is what we're going to be talking about in the next submarine briefing coming up in about a week to a week and a half from now. They did make 7 of these, but one of them they refitted to be a special operations submarine. So there's only like 6 that are actually operational. And I know this looks like a wall of text to you guys, but I'm just going to point out a couple things. It says here that it's the last ship in the 667 family. 667 is the project that it was in. So you had the 667 was the Yankee. 667 Bravo was Delta 1. And then here you can just see the letters here in bold. Bravo was the Delta 1. The Romeo was Delta 2. Delta was Delta 3. And BRDM was the Dolphin, or the 4th Delta 4. Let's see, designed by the Rubin Center. Those of you that follow my sub briefs, you guys are very familiar with who the Rubin Submarine Design Bureau is. And this time we're taking the D9R and we're modernizing it. And that's the missile complex that's holding the 16 ballistic missiles. And we're taking it to the D9RM. And we'll be talking about that all in detail. The significant thing about the R29RM, or the SSN-24, which is the missile in it, NATO name was Skiff, is that it's the last liquid-fueled ballistic missile the Russian Navy used. After this, they're going to the solid fuel rocket motors. And that's a big deal because these liquid propellants were really dangerous. They lost Yankees. They lost entire submarines to missile casualties because this liquid propellant would leak, catch on fire, create toxic gas that ate seals away, that caused flooding, and the flooding would go through the seals that were eaten away into other compartments, killing sailors. So if the toxic gas didn't kill the sailor, the flooding did, and eventually a few submarines were lost to this liquid propellant. And so they finally, thankfully, after this one, after the Delta IV, they're getting away from that. Let's move down here just a little bit. So yeah, the new missile is the R29RM. M is the modernized version of the R29R. The missile body and the program name is RSM-54. So that's a lot of numbers we're throwing at you and a lot of names. I tend to break that down a lot more for you in the sub brief, because even though we're calling it the R29 and the RSM-54 and the SSN-24, it's all the same missile, but you call it a different name whether you're on the missile team designing it, where you're worried about the body, or if you're in the Navy and you're loading the missile onto the submarine and you're worried about the whole kit, including the warheads and navigation at the top. Or if you're on NATO, you call it the SSN-24. Let's scroll down here a little bit. I'm not going to bombard you with all these words, because what I do in the sub brief is I take this mass of text and I make it easy to digest. But essentially, it's the same power plant as the Delta III had. It even has the same number of liters of primary coolant that the first reactor had. It has 2 fuel-efficient electric motors. Those are the drop-down spinners, we call them. Actually, they don't drop down on the... I don't think they drop down on the Delta IV. We'll find out when I do my research. But what they can do is, like going in and out of port, they use these a lot. They use these little port and starboard electric motors to kind of move the ship left and right a little bit, kind of help the tugs out. They can also go underway, get away from the pier using these electric motors. And of course the main shaft too, whenever they need to. So they don't need a tugboat necessarily to go to sea. But obviously if there's a tug available, they always have one of those. It uses the Omnibus Combat Information System. That's the same one that they use in modern submarines now. So all the Bori has the Omnibus. It's the most advanced one. Now the Omnibus has been upgraded, since this iteration, but it's still the same thing. Hydroacoustic complex is the skate, BDRM. What did we call the skate? I think it was shark teeth. I think the NATO name for skate was shark teeth. Yeah. ICBMs. I'm reading some chat here. Chat says ICBMs don't have homing guidance. That's true. Yeah, it's not homing guidance. They are guided, but it's not homing. Yeah, there is a significant difference between those two things. But also keep in mind, Kvetch, whenever we're talking to like the average person, the average viewer, they may not know that. So don't jump on people in chat for not knowing that. Okay. That's why we're here. I mean, we explain these things. All right. So here he's talking more about the missile. I'll go over that in detail. Let's talk about 1988. In 1988, the missile system was modernized to the RMU. So that's the R-29R modernized upgrade. Okay. The warheads were replaced with more advanced ones. The navigation system was supplemented with space navigation GLaSSNOS. Okay. So that's different because the navigation that they were using before was an astral correctional system. And what that does is, although the missile is aimed from the very beginning at its target, it gets that mid-flight correction to make it very precise. And that lessens the area of uncertainty where that warhead's going to land. Because obviously you want to get as close to the target as possible, especially whenever you're dropping non-nuclear warheads. That's something that people often forget. These submarine ballistic missiles aren't limited to nuclear weapons. They can drop conventional bombs as well, and tungsten rods or kinetic energy weapons, which I find very interesting. That will basically slam into the earth, whether it's the mountains or a flat desert area, and destroy whatever's buried beneath it. So people in underground bunkers are not immune to ballistic missile attacks. They have weapons specifically designed to go after those bunkers. Anyway, so the RMU has this upgraded navigational system that it corrects mid-flight. Possible of launching rocket in a flat trajectory. Okay, so if the target is close enough, it doesn't even need to go into suborbital flight. That's interesting. I didn't know that actually until just now. Which makes it possible to more reliable to overcome missile defenses. Yeah. So one thing that the reentry bodies do with the R-29R and going forward is as they come down from orbit, they spiral. So it makes it very difficult for a weapon to get, a hard kill on it. You can get a soft kill by blowing up a large warhead near it, which is how I believe the THAAD works and the SM-6 works. Those have large warheads. But if you want to actually get a missile warhead on warhead kill with an R-29 reentry body, it's really difficult because it doesn't come down in a straight line. It's a straight line that spirals in 3 dimensions as it comes down. And so the idea is just get a warhead close enough to it that explodes on it and knocks it off course, damages the fusing mechanism so it doesn't explode, and then it just lands somewhere away from the target. You guys can recover it later. The ultra small caliber nuclear warheads, these are 5 to 50 ton warheads. I believe those are kilotons. That should be kiloton right there. Anyway, so relatively small. Those are nuclear, but they aren't like the massive nuclear bombs. What would you use on that? Like if you had a limited conflict, but you wanted to show the side who was boss. We're seeing this now, not nuclear, but we're seeing ballistic missiles now being used in the Armenian conflict that's going on right now over there between Azerbaijan and I believe it's Armenia. It's a shooting war happening right now, and they started launching ballistic missiles at each other, not from submarines, obviously, but from land launchers, motorized vehicles launchers. Thank God it's not nuclear, though. Anyway, so let's come down here a little bit and we'll kind of wrap this up. Because there are multiple different versions of this, we're going to go over each one of these in detail in the sub brief for the Delta IV. But let's come down here to the summary and wrap it up. In 2009 to 2011, Makeyev carried out the liner development work within the framework of the R29 RMU-21, which was version 2.1 of the upgraded modernized missile. Well, we're up to like the fourth iteration of this missile now. It's just getting better and better. It is distinguished by the possibility of it using a mixed configuration warhead. I wonder why you would do that. Anyway, a mixed configuration warhead for different power classes altogether with complex of means of overcoming an anti-missile defense. Oh, I know what they're talking about. Okay. If in an interview with the RIA Novosti, Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy, Vladimir Vosky, said, it is not necessary to accept that linear missile medium is in the existing missile, which is being modernized in terms of combat equipment. I believe they're talking about decoys here. So these missiles can carry 1, 3, 7, or 10 warheads, any combination of those numbers. And they don't all have to be warheads. They can be decoys as well. And the nice thing about a decoy is a decoy blossoms whenever it's deployed. So one decoy becomes 12, and you put a couple of those with real warheads, and the target sees a shower of what looks like incoming warheads, only a couple of which are actually, nuclear warheads or even conventional warheads, and the rest are just decoys. I believe that's what they're talking about here. He says, in the future, all of our operating strategic submarines will be equipped with these missiles. So he's talking about the Bory. The Bory is going to have or if not already has, the R29R MU-2.1 submarine launched ballistic missile. According to experts, the rear armament strategic nuclear missiles on the liner until 2025 to 2030. So he's talking about the Deltas themselves. There's at least one Delta III still operational. There might be even a second one. I'm not sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. And all these Delta IVs are going to be operating through the rest of this decade. I would not be surprised if they take the Delta IV and they extend its life past 2030. But right now they're kind of, hedging their bets. They're not going to say, hey, we're going to keep operating the submarine for the next 20 years, even though they probably could with the Delta IV. It's a very well-designed submarine. All right, let's see what's going on here in the chat. I see Cameron's here. How's it going, man? He says, well, I agree with you. There isn't an argument for things like depleted uranium, rounds, etc. Isn't there an argument for depleted uranium? Yeah, they use tungsten rods. I suppose you could use depleted uranium for the same thing, right? I'm not saying it is the same thing, but you could do the same job with those two different metals. Yeah. So this is what we have to look forward to. I'm going to give you guys a little treat since we have so many people here. We're going to watch a few minutes of the current sub brief.